Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm sure you're surprised to see me here today. But this is one of our premier shows that we've recently started. It's called A Road to Innovation. And we at CxO Global are a league of extraordinary ladies and gentlemen, not only domain experts, but those thought leaders who've shaped not just um, the knowledge economy in South Asia, but also all over the world. And today as well, we've got someone that's extremely accomplished, very knowledgeable, and he has some of the greatest contributions to the knowledge economy. So, without further ado, let me please welcome Mr. Zain Jeewanjee. He's someone that I'm very fond of and very inspired by, and I'm sure a lot of you watching us today are extremely inspired by as well. So, Mr. Jeewanjee is the CEO of Insure123. He's done some tremendous work in InsurTech in the US and globally as well. He's known as one of the key thought leaders on the topic. And today we're going to be talking to him about how to break ice with large corporations. So we're going to be talking to him about entrepreneurship, taking risks, making mistakes, challenges, failures, and about all the great decisions that need to be made. So without further ado, let me hand over mic to Mr. Zain Jeewanjee. Over to you, sir.
Assalamu alaikum, and Happy New Year to all those of you who have already celebrated the first of Muharram and those who are about to start. Hopefully, you have exciting next year on the lunar calendar, of course. And Assalamu alaikum, namaste to everybody that's listening. I love this topic, breaking the ice with large companies and corporate structures, because many people usually find it challenging to go with, how do I call up Google to sell my services, or how do I call up Microsoft and sell my services, or how do I call Habib Bank of Pakistan or State Bank, and how do I break into that? And that'll be the topic. I think one of the things that I would like to focus on that is in any business, there's the salesman or the selling party or the manufacturing party. There's the product or the service. And then, of course, there is the end user. And the platform that you should always work on as an entrepreneur, as if you're got a product or service, the product or the service must be happy. So if I'm selling this to you, right, an iPhone, the iPhone must be happy. Now, can somebody tell me, anybody on this, that's your, can you tell me how can this be happy? Ansa, can you tell me? I mean, can you tell me how would the phone be happy?
With a good experience.
Okay, so does the phone get an experience?
I don't know. Maybe if I were to guess, then maybe just being taken care of, getting charged on time, getting the right juice on time. Perhaps just like I said, not being replaced. Perhaps. So those are some of the things top of mind.
So that's a good answer, and very close to what my thought process is. So what makes this phone happy is that the components inside are all healthy. You're feeding them with good vital food ingredients. So you're not charging it all the time. Kabhi garam ho gaya, kabhi thanda ho gaya. Gaadi mein aapne chhod diya usko. You left it in your car at 90 degrees. And what does the iPhone do? You know what? It gives a little message and it says, I'm sorry, we're turning off the phone because it's become too hot. Now, obviously, 20 years ago, that wasn't an issue. But the way we've buggered up the ozone of the world and the gases and emissions that we constantly do and the trees that we're cutting off, the world is getting hotter. Temperatures are rising across the globe. So therefore, this will get hot more often. So to keep the product happy, it must have great components. So if it's an iPhone, parts सारे अच्छे डालें उसमें. Shape and look अच्छी होनी चाहिए. So your product must be happy. So instead of saying the quality of the service or the quality of the product or the deliverables that the product will deliver, focus on making the product happy first. Now let's transform them into, if you're going to go to a large company to sell something, you want to break that ice and sell your product or service to Google. And you're a software development company in Pakistan. Is your product happy? How do they get happy? Are your employees paid well? Do you treat your employees right? Do you give them opportunity to grow within the company? And if you look at what I mentioned, pay is the least important. Do you treat them right? Do you give them growth opportunities? Do you educate them? Do you give them learning opportunities, learn newer things? The more you do it, the product will be happier. Now, if the product is happy, it's a great product. When you have a child or a family member or a friend who isn't happy, the product isn't good. If you could mute everybody, please.
I just muted them.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Appreciate it. I don't know. They keep unmuting themselves, whoever it is. They maybe have to wait in the waiting room, I think. So as case in point, the product here is my interview. And somebody joined the room that didn't realize you're entering an interview session that's being recorded, and you should keep your product off and keep your volume off. So if the product is happy, product is good, when you talk to a large corporate structure individual, if your product is happy and good, it'll be easier to sell. You know that. Now, how do you break the ice and get into? How do you actually? Right now, I'll talk about 3 ways or 3 people that want to break the ice. Number 1, in employment. If you're working for a small company and now you want to work for a larger company, so you're working for, let's say, a small outfit in, let's say, Karachi or Lahore or Rawalpindi, you're working somewhere in a small company, and now you want to approach and go to work for the State Bank of Pakistan or PIE or large corporate structure. How do you break that ice? Again, the product, which is you in this case, must be happy. That means your components must be good. Your integrity, honesty must be at a level which is unparalleled. That's what makes the product happy. So just as I mentioned that your product is the iPhone, if the components inside are good, your product will be happy. So if you're the service deliverer and you're a software writer, you write code and you write Laravel, you write PHP, but you're educated right, you study that, you're in the latest technology of Laravel, you know everything about Laravel, then you're a good product. And if you're a good product, you'll be now sellable. How do you approach the big company? How do you break the ice? You try and see what their needs are and what their vacuum is. What are they missing in the company? And they're looking and searching for that. And you need to have the right fit. Okay. So if your product is yourself, you must have a match. If your product is, let's say you've got a software solution for Habib Bank Limited. You have a software solution that you can give them. The breaking the ice would be easy because you would send an execution of a small note to them, let them know that, look, this is what I've found is your problem. This is how we can solve it. And we have a solution. And I'd like to just take your time out in the next so many days, or you can put down a calendar or make it easy for them. Say, I'd like to discuss with you because I think I have a solution for this. So the bigger the pain that corporate individual or the company has, the bigger the company, their pain, you may think that they don't want to deal with a small company or a small person. But it's easier to penetrate them because for them, it's a huge problem. And they would love to get a solution from a small fish that can just solve the problem for them. So the fit must be right. You must be able to solve that problem for them. And that's how you break into that large barrier company, number one. Number two, you could be, you could not have a solution, but you may have a product which is a physical, not a software product, but a physical product. So you have let's say you're a computer company and you manufacture computers, or you manufacture fans or air conditionings. How do you go into PIA and say all your offices all over Pakistan, you buy our air conditioners, right? And you have your product must be happy. We talked about the product being happy, which means the components that you put into your air conditioner must be A quality. The way it's put together must be A quality. You must have tested and used it and made sure that it's better than any other product. And then what you do, this is how you break the ice with a corporate company. You figure out somehow to get hold of who is buying the air conditioner. There must be somebody who's selling it to them. Now, so I've got this air conditioner. I want PIA to buy it from me. I try and figure out, number one, what air conditioners they're buying right now. And I do a comparative analysis and do an honest analysis myself. Is my air conditioning unit better than the one they're currently using? And, and don't cheat yourself. And make a list of things. And if not, then get your air conditioner level to that level. Once you have a better model, it's not about pricing, remember. Remember, it's PIA. It's a government money. They've got millions of dollars. Even though they're bankrupt, they still have more money to pay. So what you have to, it's not about pricing. You have to be competitive, but it must be a better product. And what pain will that better air conditioner do for them? So now, if the air conditioner is working, it's cooling the room, and it's doing fine, do you want to have them change that air conditioner? What will make them change that air conditioner if it's already working? Price won't. A little bit, few features won't. But try and find out what can we do for them that's a pain. Now, it could be possible that the computer is being shipped. They ship the air conditioners being shipped are taking 7 days before they get to the new facilities. That's a pain point. When you go to the CEO and tell them, we can ship you in same day. And not only that, our men will come and install them. You say, this is a pain we have, and it's not a price point. All right. So now you've got a product that you can get into a large company because it's a better product and there's a pain point that you want. So always when you're trying to get big, large corporate companies, look at your service compared to what they're using right now or what they haven't used. What pain points do they hit? So focus in on pain point. Remember, your product has to be happy. Happy means it's great components in it. If it's a human service, software you're selling, and it's a software service, make sure all your employees are top-notch employees. And if you're the CEO or controller or the manager of the division, make sure you're hard on them. You make your employees produce quality, not slacking. And because if your employees are slacking, the product outcome will be slacky. It won't be happy. It won't be a good product, which means you then can't sell it to corporate. I'll give you an example of how we've broken ice. I'll give you an example when the internet first started in 1996, 97, and we were trying to sell this online insurance products. And we had to convince insurance carriers to allow us to sell the product online. Of course, this is 23, 24, 25 years ago, quarter of a century. So it's way back then. Nobody was selling or buying anything online as much as we do today, and buying insurance online was unheard of. So we called up the first insurance carrier that we wanted to allow us to buy, and they told me that what if people lie on the online application, and we can't trust them? I said, well, what if they lie on the application itself, on paper application, right? So, well, we don't cover them then. I said, then we'll put that restriction. So what I did is first conform to all the objections that they had of selling online policies. Once we got the insurance company converted to this, then we started selling online. And I think it was 1997, 1998, where the first online aggregator in the world we invented. But how do we break the big companies to buy? So we went to MetLife at that time. MetLife would have been the third largest or fourth largest insurance company of America. I think that even at that time, there was $70-80 billion worth, or maybe even bigger. And I said, how do I break to that? At that time, we were, I think, about 4 or 5 employees in that division of my company, which was G1G.com. And I said, how do I call, how do you a 4-person company call the third largest insurance company in the world? What we did is we looked at their pain point, that their current insurance agents were selling a product line on paper. And because MetLife didn't have the automation and all that stuff, they would often go to another company and they would choose between 2 or 3 other different companies. And I created the pain that did not exist for them. How did I create the pain? I went to the MetLife. We went to MetLife and told them, we got a connection, first of all, into MetLife, and we're very grateful to that connection, a very good close friend of mine. And we discovered, when we talked to the management, said, look, right now you haven't got this opportunity where your agents, when you get a quote, they quote MetLife, and then they go online and get quotes from different other carriers. However, if you provided that, then they wouldn't go outside. And that was a pain. So the air conditioner, if you're selling air conditioners, you would think it's not cooling 2 rooms. The CEO may not even have thought of that. Now, the pain was big enough for them. We created the pain, or created the awareness of that pain, because we didn't create the pain. Pain existed, sorry. We created the awareness. Once they got the awareness, we were talking to them. And we then, and I think in 2001, we signed the contract with MetLife for almost 10 years exclusivity of providing that breadth of all that services and products. Another example would be we did something with Cisco. Cisco at that time was 30,000 employees, and they asked us. We were on the notch of getting the account. This would have been 2004 or 2003. Ted Kozowski, the HR director of Cisco at that time. And the question came up, okay, we're looking at 3 things. We're looking at you and 2 other companies, and the other one is AIG, which is an insurance company, and Aetna, which is an insurance company. Both carriers were over $100 billion at that time. We were maybe I think $1 million in sales at that time. And the question was, so we have 30,000, and Cisco asked me, said, we have 30,000 employees. How big are you? And I looked at them, and my answer would have been, well, Aetna is probably 30,000 employees. The other carrier that they were looking at is probably 5,000 employees, and we're about 4 employees. I didn't answer it this way. I answered with their pain. So what I told them, I said, we have only 4 employees, and we have fantastic bandwidth and technology. What we're looking at, Mr. Cisco, is to remove even the 4 employees. Because I studied that their CEO at that time was talking about how very soon there's going to be everything on the internet, reducing bandwidth, and doing. So I went in and talked their language, their pain, their vision was to reduce manpower, increase bandwidth. And we told them, and we got the account. We got Cisco. I think I've talked enough. Any Mahmood, you want to start with questions, or anybody else, or um, who's their moderator?
Right.
Um,
So
oh,
I'm
she's back.
going to be the
You're back.
moderator.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you're back. You're back.
I'm here. I was here all along. I just didn't.
Okay, I lost you on the screens. I don't know. Somebody else is moderating.
So the only thing was I wanted all the focus to be. I was listening, and what a brilliant story in terms of Cisco. So a lot of times, I keep because I interact with a lot of young people and startups on a daily basis, and a lot of times the issue that they have is sustainability. They have a lot of ideas. There are a lot of fresh ideas, and now, especially after the recent event with Airlift closing down operations in Pakistan, a lot of these young startups have become very reluctant because they don't know what the future holds. It's very unsure, rising gas prices, and then with the devaluation of the currency. So there's a lot of despair all around. So I would like for you to sort of pick up on that narrative and perhaps reconstruct it in the context of South Asia and Pakistan in particular.
And hopefully, you will take this with a grain of salt and understand that if I cut, and I always say this on all my interviews, if I cut the vein from here, the blood that'll drop will be green in Pakistan. So I'm a Pakistani. But however, we must also be honest to ourselves, and we must address the issue that we are facing as a nation. And we'll take it in an entrepreneurial perspective. Airlift is one example. And by the way, the Silicon Valley had the same in the 2000s when we crashed, right? Because every company that was hiring people, they said, okay, domain ka naam laga do, internet bana do, chal jayegi, company will make millions. It doesn't. It takes work. It takes 8 to 10 hours a day for the founders to work, not just getting a big salary, not just getting a big pay cut, a paycheck, but really working hard. And when the times get tough, the founders, the top management team has to work harder. If your objective is to exit and make some money, so getting funding is not it's not just, the game is not over. The game just started. The same is with, IMF, right? Loans. We can't just keep taking loans and run a country. So think of like an entrepreneurship, a small startup. Everybody's in despair. This is the greatest opportunity in Pakistan right now. Why? Because you're at $250 to 250 rupees to $1, which means if I was selling this phone from Pakistan to America, right, it got cheaper for Americans to buy it. It's much cheaper. So your services are now almost like free for Americans to take on. But the product must be happy, which means it must be quality, it must be real value, and you cannot fool around. So what you'll have to do, get out of this despair. There's no despair, by the way. Every time has an opportunity. Every downtime has an opportunity. Some of the largest companies in the world were created in bad economic times. Google, Microsoft, Apple, look at the dates. Founding dates of these companies and when they went up is when the times were tough, the tough gets stronger. So no despair. Don't get worried about it. Here's what you do. I'll give you 3 magic words that'll get your company going. Number 1, put in another 2 or 3 hours a day as founders. Do not give up an opportunity and control your costs. This is the time and period when companies must control your costs. And this is for everybody. If you're an individual, control your costs in your house, your shopping. Stop going extra things outside to eat. Save money. Because as the time gets harder, the people that have the money will win and will be able to survive. And work harder. Everybody. If the leaders work hard, the employees will work hard. Employees work hard, the people under them, the teams will work hard. The management will work hard, the teams will work hard. You have to put in more hours. The success of Silicon Valley today is nothing but pure work. Silicon Valley people work. And these are wealthy people. They work. If you're going to come in for 8 hours and put in 6 hours of work, that means imagine if you have a force of 100 employees and they all work only 6 hours, that's 600 hours. If they work 8 hours, that's 800 hours. So if you have a 100-person company, you got 200 hours more of work. How are you going to compete? The other guys that are working 600 hours can't compete because they'll have to hire more people to match up the 200 hours, right? So that means 200 hours is what? 200 divided by 30 is what? You have to have 60 more employees to match up the company that has employees that actually work 8 hours. That makes sense?
Absolutely, it does. Now, one of the other concerns that a lot of businesses and startups these days face is that because when you're talking about saving and cost cutting, the first thing that they do is a very hasty decision. They just be like, okay, so we have to start laying off employees. And that has led to a bit of a trust deficit in the workforce in terms of working for startups. So, how does one deal with the scenario?
Fantastic. So, when we had that downturn in the valley, and I did something, and this is a management and ownership decision. I walked in my office and I told everyone, I said, look, these are hard times and we're going to have revenue cutbacks. I don't want to lay off anybody. I'm not going to lay off anybody. I've made the decision. I'm going to take zero salary till we can come up to speed again. So the owners and the founders should be willing to sacrifice first. Okay. After I did that, I said, now I went to each employee and I said, here's what I want you to do. We need to cut 20% of your salary. So you're making 100 rupees an hour today. I want to bring it down to 80 rupees a day. But I can't do that because your family will crumple. So what I'll do is I'll keep your salary the same. You just give me 20% more work. Are you in it with me together? Now, for those who are not in it with me together, I fire them. Hey, you're not a partner. I'm taking no salary. I don't want to cut your salary. I guarantee you. You know what happened? We didn't lose a single employee. In about 8 months, we were back on our feet and running. And we grew much faster. Brilliant, right? So instead of cutting you back and laying you off, so if you're going to lay off, let's say 20% of your force, why don't you go to your force and tell them to produce 20% more? And don't lay anybody, because if you produce more, your results, you'll have more product. But keep in mind, the product has to be happy.
Absolutely. So when pitching, a lot of startup founders, now they do a great job in pitching the product, the service, and what we've heard that a lot of the VCs essentially are not looking for the perfect product, but maybe for the perfect team, right? And they don't invest in the solution with the individual. How far is this statement true?
Say that again completely.
So
repeat it.
Most VCs, when they're looking to fund a solution, they're not looking essentially at the product or the solution, but the team that's involved. How far is this?
Look, no, they're not looking for the product. They're not looking for VCs are not looking for the product, the solution, or the team. The first thing they're looking for is, I'm going to take my money out and I'm going to put my money in. I want this $100 to become 200 and as quickly as I can do it. Right? So if I can take $100 and make it $300 in 3 weeks, I'm excited now. So first, you must have an exit strategy in mind to present to the VC. If you're going to sell to a venture capitalist, you've got to tell him how he's going to make, because what does the VC want in it? He doesn't care what the product is. He wants to make sure he invested is now bigger. Whatever he did, he gets a return on it. They'll invest in 10 companies. 2 of them are going to give returns. 8 of them are not going to give them much returns. 8 of them are probably going to close out, right? So the 2 that are going to stay there have got to give them money to cover the 8 losses. Okay? Invested $10. The 2 companies have got to give me $20. Make sense so far?
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. So first they're looking for money. So everything you do. Now, when they're looking for money, they see that I funded, I'm not going to say airlift, let's say I funded Zain Jeewanjee company in Pakistan. They put $100 million. And they see Zain buying a Ferrari and going to movies and driving to picnics. And boy, it's my money. And this is an expense. When he travels to a presentation to Dubai, so I was funding a company, I'll tell you, and I was in Dubai. And I was in Karachi in November, and then I'd gone to Dubai because I couldn't meet this guy up. And he flew in and he came in first class to Dubai. I'm not going to fund this company. Even when he's looking for money, he's spending more money. Right. So VCs look at that because eventually my return, my $100, it needs to get to $300. So spending, how you spend, that's where you manage things. And then they look, of course, at the team. I want to produce, let's say, XYZ product. Do they have the experience? Oh, wow, there's a guy who worked for Google producing this kind of product. He's on the team. Oh, wow, this guy's experience. He's done 20 years into this. Wow, this guy. And they look at the team. Absolutely, you're right. It's very true. They look at the team as well. And the team, they look at 3 ways. The management team, how much experience you have. So let's say if I go hire somebody and by the way, I'm in Pakistan next week for the next 20 days. I'm in Pakistan. I'd love to meet any entrepreneurs that want to meet me. Happy to meet them. But if an entrepreneur comes to me for funding, and I'm an angel investor, and I love to see ideas in Pakistan that I can fund, by the way. So if somebody comes up to me and is looking for funding, I look at it, what is his experience? And then how passionate he is about this deal. How passionate is he about the product? How devoted has he? How much skin does he have in the game? And I think those are things. So, and then of course the team, his experience and knowledge.
Brilliantly put. Now, moving forward, now when we talk about failure, right? It's often said that if you must fail, fail fast. How would you critically evaluate this statement?
Okay, and my first answer is there's nothing as failure for entrepreneurs. You never fail. If I went to Stanford today, or I went to Berkeley, and I took a course, they'll teach me everything, but they won't talk about failures. They won't tell me how how the internet will stop at 3 o'clock because there's a procession coming from Islamabad that's going to close the internet for 5 hours. They don't talk about that, right? That's lessons you learn. When you take an MBA degree from one of these colleges, you might pay $40,000 or $50,000 fees. You don't get those lessons that you get them for free. So there is no failure at all. It's all lessons. And as you take each lesson is how well you studied it. And you say, look, I did this, it didn't work, and it cost me this. Next time I've got to do it right so it doesn't do it, because now you already got an example. So they're examples and lessons, not failures. And you learn, and you should be gratified that if you get a challenge like that, because the other guy didn't get it. In fact, in Silicon Valley, when an entrepreneur, a VC talks to an entrepreneur who's failed a couple of times or not achieved his exit or something, they actually like it because this guy's now experienced. He knows the pitfalls.
And he knows what not to do, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Right. Thank you, Mr. Zain Jeewanjee. It's been an honor and a privilege speaking to you today. Please keep contributing to the knowledge economy. And we all look forward to welcoming you in Pakistan.
Inshallah. Thank you.
Thank you. Before we sign off for the day, I would like to ask you, what would be your final few words of wisdom from this session, take home for everyone that's watching today?
Look, first thing is there are no failures. Don't think about failing ever. Just every time if something doesn't happen, go, wow, I learned it. I learned it now. I'll do it better. So keep positive. There's no despair. We're in challenging times. If you think Pakistan's dollar is up and the economy is failing and the political system is crushed, by the way, it's all over the world right now. Every country's in a mess financially. The bigger the problem, it gets bigger. There are opportunities today. Please look at opportunities, and never fear. The bigger the customer, he's easier to break in, because if you got a solution, these bigger companies, their problems are huge. So don't fear breaking the ice to big companies. Just walk in and talk to them, give them a solution, because they're looking for it. These are 3 takeaways I think that today's meeting should do.
Thank you very much. And ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for watching. You've been a wonderful audience. However, I'm just going to interrupt this with one last question. Mr. Shafat, do you have a question? My team has informed me that there's a question that's pending. Shafat Hashmi. Right. That's pretty much it. Does anyone else have any more questions? Otherwise, we're going to wrap up today's session.
I think Shafat is muted. That's why we can't hear him.
No, I'm right here. I'm so sorry. Assalamu alaikum, Zain bhai. So good to hear all that you mentioned, and what a great insight. I mean, once you spoke about the exit strategy in mind, that is what VCs are looking for. And frankly speaking, I mean, as an active VC, all that you mentioned, this makes so much sense. And something that I've really learned profound, as always, when I hear you and whenever we sit together and talk, is how to make a product happy. I mean, we're in the services business essentially, and we also curate products for others and for ourselves. And how do you make a product happy is such a wonderful question. It just opens so many dimensions in my head, because just completely twisted and turned our typical angle, which is how to make a customer happy. And I think if you're able to make the product happy, I mean, customer happiness or delight or that wow factor is just a byproduct. So I think that's just so profound. Also, to wrap it up, the response that you've given about airlift is fantastic, and that was spot on. And I'm amazed that how come a gentleman who's sitting, thousands of miles away from where airlift is born knows exactly that how those guys flush the accounts. So that's amazing. And I think this is one of those great things about business leaders is that they're close to the pulse of the market. They keep the information. But there's only one thing that I would like to add to the conversation is that one of the greatest leadership skills is that you note everything, but you do not take notice of everything. So you should note stuff that's going around, observe it, but you take notice when it's necessary. And that is one of the traits of powerful leaders. And one of them is Zain Jeewanjee. So all my respects and regards to the brilliant gentleman here. Such a phenomenal experience listening to you. And thank you, Anza, for hosting this.
Thank you so much, Mr. Hashmi. It's been an honor and a privilege. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. And we hope to hear more from such extraordinary gentlemen again. And Mr. Jeewanjee, looking forward to seeing you in Pakistan.
Inshallah. And Shafat bhai, thank you for the compliments. I'll pay you when I land there. Thank you. All righty. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Thank you for
so
watching. Please keep us updated with your comments and feedback. We love hearing from you. And please stay tuned for another Road to Innovation next time for some wise words and even wiser thoughts. Thank you very much and have a good night.
Good night.
Thank you.